Thanks, everybody. Item 1 on the agenda, public participation session. So is that why you're here, or you just come because of fun? Okay. Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, we do have two members of the public online and they can ask questions. I'll just check. I've asked one. Can I ask, Shaz, do you have any questions for Council this evening? I'll take that as a... No, thank you. Thank you, Shaz. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 2, A, apologies for absence. Item 2B, disclosure of councillors' interests in any matters in relation to the Code of Conduct. I'll declare the normal thing as Shropshire Council planning portfolio holder, and I don't make any decisions, etc.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's the usual. I have to declare, since it's a planning meeting, that I'm the Vice Chair of Shropshire Northern Area Planning Committee. And any decisions I make at Shropshire will have no bearing on what I do tonight, since we tend to give observations and don't actually take decisions.
Like Mark, I am a member of the Northern Planning Committee, and any decision made today has no impact upon any discussion made at Northern Planning or any other Shropshire Council discussions.
Item 3, minutes. Is everybody happy that Jonathan?
Move we adopt.
So you're happy or sign them as a true and accurate record? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Is everyone in favour of that? Thank you. Yeah. Item 4, planning applications. Too many things open. So the first one's 12 Park Street, Osprey, which is a bit of an odd one. James.
For this one, I don't think we've been given enough information to actually make a decision, and therefore we should object based on insufficient evidence being given. But I would like to hear what you others say as well.
Well, there's obviously stuff, because it's been validated, so there's stuff missing on the portal, I would say. Whether it's ticked as private and not public or something, I don't know, I'll have to check and I get away from here. But certainly from us now commenting on it, I don't think there's anything we can do to it. Duncan, did you put your hand up? Or was it just wafting in the corner of my eye? Okay, Mark, sorry.
Thank you, Chair. I did actually check earlier on today. The case officer wasn't in today, so I couldn't make any ask about any opinion on it. Rather than object to it, I think the only thing we can actually do is make no observations, but qualify it with the fact that there's insufficient information. But I'm easy as to which way you want to go with it.
For that, I think on the same principle you can't approve, but you can't object to it because you haven't got the information to object to, because you haven't got enough clarity about what they're doing to say it's wrong or right. So I would support that we can't give any information, can't give any comment, but we do note the lack of information.
Practically what they could do is just extend the deadline, but it depends what the actual applicants feel and whatever. So I don't know, but I tend to agree that we don't comment either way, because you can't, there's nothing to comment on and express the disappointment about the missing stuff. Is everybody happy with that? Yep. Are you sure, James?
My thing is, because we can't make a valid decision, I think it is material that we don't have sufficient evidence to actually make a decision on. So you can object until they provide, basically saying We don't want it to be accepted if we haven't been given the opportunity to read the.
But from what we know, it's been validated, so the officers are happy, all the stuff's been submitted. It's not necessarily the applicant's fault, it's missing off the information we've got.
The officers could bring it back to us because we've objected, which would then give us the.
But they could bring it back to us because we've not commented because we've put the caveat on it, so.
I want it to come back to us either way.
Yeah. Mark?
I'm happy with that. One question I've got, and I don't have sufficient information, maybe other councillors who have more information will be able to enlighten me. Is there a certain amount of permitted development where they don't need planning permission for things up to a certain size? Maybe you, Chair, has got that information, I don't know.
No, the percentage threshold went a few years ago. It used to be no more than 70% of the original dwelling and all sorts of things, and so many metres out, but all that's gone. No. As long as it's below 2.4 metres high, if it's got an apex roof and things like that, and distance from the boundaries, but you can't tell any of that from the location plan anyway. So.
But the fact that it was validated would imply that it did require planning, I presume.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take money off them for the sake of taking money off them. I'm sure the finance department would be glad of that, but if it did happen, but no. Okay. 2 to 14, Radford's Field Industrial Estate.
Due to lack of information, the council isn't able to discuss. Therefore, has asked that it be reconsulted on when the information is available. Is that okay?
Okay. 2 to 14, Radford's. Has anybody got any comments on this one? Mark?
I would suggest we support this. It's quite a simple application in terms of they're trying to redo the roof and make it more energy efficient. So all they're doing is actually putting an extra layer with insulation in. There's virtually no difference in the height, and I can't see any reason to make any negative comments, so I would suggest we support it.
Any other comments? So you move and we support it then, Mark? Yeah. Seconded, is that? Okay, everyone in favour of that? Thank you. Bryn Hafford Drive, Jonathan.
On the planning portal, it states that a survey has been undertaken. Is that enough as an accurate record of the state of affairs with that tree, or would it be worth asking all the same if the tree officer can be consulted just to double check?
It's my understanding the tree officer would be commenting on any application, but specifically ones about trees, it would be a consultee anyway.
So it goes without saying, basically.
Yeah,
Okay.
should be. But you could still caveat our comment that, yeah. Mark?
Just briefly, since we've got an awful lot of trees, I think we can understand the fact that this is just basic maintenance work to make sure that the tree remains in a healthy condition, and I think that's a good thing. And again, I suggest that we support it.
Similarly agree. It sounded to me, initially I thought 3 to 4 metres sounds quite a lot. Then I read the tree's 20 metres high, so it doesn't sound quite so much, does it? So it seems appropriate pruning work.
More than a trim, but in proportion it's not huge. Is everybody in favour of that? Okay, thank you very much.
Summarise, so we're supporting it, recognising the tree officer will have an opportunity to have their say.
Furrows Osprey next. Still on the tree. Yeah. Anybody got any comments on this one that's... Duncan?
Continue to be concerned about the number of illuminated signs going up. It's just unnecessary light pollution, isn't it? So I don't know. It probably able to get planning permission, but I feel that we have too many large companies putting up illuminated signs, and companies trading the town centre struggle to get any signage at all and can't have illuminated signs, can they? So it just doesn't seem equitable, and it just seems unnecessarily adding to light pollution. But that's my view.
It's the other side of a building that I made a similar comment on, that they're just doing the other side of it now. It is also visible from the Hill Fort, which is a scheduled monument, so it's also the fact that you have got a bright light visible from a scheduled monument. So again, it's a matter of, I think the luminescence is 270, which is apparently within sort of dark skies level, but not, it's obviously not ideal. But it's also on the main road into Oswestry, and you can see it from the Hill Fort. So I'd, again, happy to support the comment of the fact that we're not happy that it's an illuminated sign coming in.
I mean, it's already there as well, isn't it? But because they do have to be mindful of the setting of the Hill Fort when they're considering this, so it's a fair comment, really.
For the submissions, whether you're saying you do not support it or whether you're saying that you object to it. I know it's only a subtle difference, just to help me.
Can I just clarify, if we are objecting to it, if it's already been put up there, is there anything that can be done to make it be taken down or made less bright, or is that something we can ask for?
If it's refused, then it's a case of enforcement to follow through and take them to bring it back to what it was, or but then they might, because the enforcement are obliged to find an accommodation, then they would encourage them to reapply with a different thing. So, and essentially that would be dimming the actual illumination. I don't imagine they would take the signage off. Is the signage the problem, or is it the illumination? So, if the illumination is the problem, the response should be to tell them to fix the level of illumination, not necessarily the sign, if that makes sense. Duncan?
As a point of principle, I think we probably should be irrelevant whether it's been put out without authorisation or not. We should just say whether it should get planning permission. The realities of how that's enforced on something that is already done is not our concern. We're not being consulted on that, are we? I personally think it should take no account of whether it's being put up unauthorised or not. We should just look at it on its merits or demerits. It's just a view.
We only know it's there because we've seen it. But if you didn't know, then you would judge it as on the drawing, wouldn't you? And it's not in the conservation area. If it was in the conservation area, then you'd have another level of grumble about it. But it's just where it is. Richard?
So are we in a position to say, you know, the sign's okay, but do something about the illumination? Is that a comment that we can specifically make then? Because I think that seems to be the general issue of concern, isn't it? So can we make some measure of comment? I'm not sure whether we say don't illuminate it or just make it minimal illumination or whatever.
So the notes I've made is that the council do not support the application as it stands because it's an unnecessary illuminated sign and it is visible from the Hill Fort. Is there
I would have a slight problem with saying it's an unnecessary sign in the turn of phrase.
The illumination aspects.
We've just got the concern about the illumination.
Yeah.
That's the rub, isn't it?
The illuminated aspect of the sign is unnecessary. Okay. Okay.
I was just wondering if we could actually ask for a measure of the illumination from the Hill Fort. I mean, if we say it's going to be bright, what are you basing that on? So it's a matter, I presume, that the planning officers have a measure for illumination, and if it's below the level that it needs to be, then it's out at the edge of town, and etc., etc. But it's whether or not we can actually ask for the thing to actually be measured.
Is it literally just an illuminated still, or will there be like moving images on it? Because that could be a distraction to drivers. Ironic sort of way.
Yeah, no, well, that's a fair comment, but in terms of illumination, they will also argue about next door, quick fit, and other things that are already illuminated. And so there's an argument about the level and what's appropriate or not, but we're not in a position to decide what that level is. James, sorry.
Taking Jonathan's name, I think the problem is we also have literally the next door that was granted at 500 candela, which I did say should have been reduced. It's gone up at 500. This is 270, so it's already dimmer than what is next to it. So it's going to be either way. It was granted previously, despite a comment on the illumination.
So just, I've got no problem with everybody putting that comment in, but just don't raise your expectations because of next door. It's going to unlikely to transpire to it. Is everybody happy? Mark?
I think it's perfectly valid to make the observation that we're concerned about the level of illumination from the hill fort. The fact that it's half the light power of next door, okay, it's dimmer, but the observation is valid, even if ultimately the objection isn't taken. So I think making the observation about the concern of the illumination from the hill fort, I think, is a valid one.
And I think it's a fair comment, really, because it's the cumulative effect of all of these bits as well. It's not just one thing on its own. Richard?
I agree with that, but I don't think we should be getting fixed up in what the hill fort says or not says, because surely whether the hill fort was there or not, we'd still be going. We don't want too much illumination. So for me, it's just the general principle of, can we reduce the illumination on signs wherever they are?
It's merely the fact that isn't there legislation to do with the ancient monument linked to illumination? That was all I was hanging the observation of. I wasn't disagreeing with what you just said.
If Jonathan was in charge, then you'd been in trouble. Yeah, no, the only reason you mentioned the hill fort is because it's important to make sure you're not impacting on the setting of the hill fort in anything you're doing. That's all. So is everybody happy with we do that comment then? Are you happy you've got the gist of?
So I think the view is we do not support it. As a general view, the council is seeking opportunities to reduce the level of illumination from signs. Feel that this is the illuminated element of this sign is unnecessary, and it would have would be visible from the hill fort and therefore have an impact on its historic setting.
Much whether it's necessary or not necessarily, it's detrimental to the environment. Basically, we're creating artificial light, which isn't good for, we know, for insects and other animals. So it's not whether it's necessary or not necessary; it's detrimental.
So there's a level of
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, I'll take that bit out.
Okay, everybody happy with that? Okay, thank you. Oh, I've gone to sleep. Hang on. The cinema, Arthur Street. Anybody? John? James, sorry.
we could focus on the illuminated sign. I think that this is visible from the Castle Monument, which is another scheduled monument, and it also blocks the view from the bottom of I can't remember what's Arthur Street up to the monument. So it's actually in the way of that view, which is meant to be protected by the monument status. Yeah, I think it is there's several listed buildings around, so it's also obstructing the environment of the view of those buildings from both down and up from the hill. So that's why I would personally offer an objection based on the fact that it is obscuring the view of various listed buildings in the area and the scheduled monument.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to be wicked for a minute and just say this is an externally illuminated sign, which is covered under the previous comments that's been made in the town centre. I'm being wicked. It's the level of illumination, obviously, which is important. But the fact that it is an externally illuminated sign, presumably that is variable, so it can be brought down in intensity. That's a question, but.
I mean, the level of illumination here is 2, isn't it? So we're looking at something that's 270, this is 2. So this is almost equivalent to just having a window, you know, a light on in a room with no curtains. So I think it's appropriate, and yeah, I do hear the comments about the impact on the Hartlepool Port, but I think on balance I would make no comment.
I mean, the illuminations in the housing, it's not just naked illumination, it's designed to go down onto the sign, isn't it? So it hasn't got to go any further than that. It's not a source of illumination for the ramp or anything. Any other comment? Duncan? Sorry, Duncan, I've turned you off. Carry on.
The other sign, the internally illuminated sign of the menu, because there's 2 signs here, the document has it as a completely different shape and size, as is shown on the previous screen that we had. That shows us 512 by 468, and go down a little bit more, and that has 630 by 350. It's actually there seems to be some discrepancies on here. But my general feeling is I'm happy with it. It's no different to hanging pub sign.
Yeah, well, it's a sketch. I mean, obviously, it's not even drawn square with the building, is it? It's drawn square with a piece of paper rather than the actual. But anyway, but yeah, no, I'm less inclined to worry about it in terms of impact because it's modest in my view. So, Wendy.
I was going to say also, is it something that once, if it's the venue's closed, the lights would go off? Would they be, is the idea that they're going to be on 24 hours, or if they're closed then it's off and you know they're closed? But I know that's not part of the planning, but it might not be.
Well, you can make that a condition. You can ask for that to be a condition on whatever they permit. But generally, if you're wanting to attract customers, then you want it well lit to draw people in so they don't think you're closed. So I think it's almost guaranteed it'll be off when it's closed, I would suspect.
Looking at the sign, the illuminated sign again, it reminds me of a couple of other buildings in town with similar designs, and for once I have no observations.
Except for the observation you just made. Sorry, I couldn't resist. So, is anybody going to propose?
No observations.
Any contrary view?
I would like the comment that it does block the view of various listed buildings and a scheduled monument from various angles. I know that the application to build houses just down from there was made to change it because it was blocking the view of that exact angle up the hill. So we're now saying we're putting something else artificial into that view. So they could put the sign flat against the building to stop that being an issue, rather than a sticking out sign so it wouldn't obscure that listed. Is my comment, like, I'd rather it be noted as a comment than and have no observation.
Well, we can say what Duncan and Jonathan have said and just put some concern about the view to the, and just put it as a rider on the bottom. And
It's just we say no observation. However, in discussion, a view was made that it is an impact on the view up the hill, which we acknowledge, but equally it's a low level of illumination, and we also discussed that as well. So, yeah, there's no harm in giving the context to the discussion.
yeah. Well,
Going by what the officers at the planning actually say to us, it's a case of they welcome additional comments rather than a blanket no observation, because it lets them actually gauge the feeling of what was discussed. So I think putting the observation in is actually quite valuable.
so is everybody happy with that? It's been proposed, seconded. Okay, thank you. Osprey School next. Any comments on that? Just variation of condition? No? Okay, no observation on that one. Western Lane, you've got listed building and you've got full application. Just in terms of context, the listed building part is the fabric of the building, and then the full application is for that and the context around it. So if you've got a listed building application, sometimes it's about internal alterations, and you'll have a separate application that covers the wider thing. So you may have the same comment for both things, both applications, but they're two distinct application types. Any comments on?
I think we should actually support it because it's listed because it's Wilfrid, I think Wilfrid Owen's birthplace as well. So that given its interest to our town's heritage, and they've made sure that they do follow the Conservation Officer's recommendations, and that's what they're actually applying for, is to make sure that it fits more in line with the sort of properties, and it would actually have a benefit to the property by having this application accepted.
Yeah, I'm happy to support. What they're doing is taking an old conservatory which is out of use and bringing it up to scratch on standards. So it's actually benefiting the building, which is great. So.
Funny enough, I was just going to say what someone said then, that it's very in keeping with the style and detail of the building, so I second that.
It's effectively a like-for-like swap, as close as you can get. So everybody's in favour of supporting that one. Thank you. So that's the end of the application, unless there's anything else that's coming. There's nothing else to add, is there? No. Yeah. So it's the public consultation on land off Mount Road next then. You've had the stuff. Aaron's had an email from them offering the opportunity for us to talk to them directly, which I think myself would be a wise decision, because this consultation is a broad thing. It's not an application yet, so we don't necessarily want to fetter our observations in a comment necessarily, but we can encourage other people to comment, and I think it'd be beneficial to hear what they want to do in terms of vision, because on the website and on that leaflet there's not really a lot to go on. Duncan.
All that, but nevertheless they've put this out and given a date for residents to respond to, and just on what they've put out we have to express some concerns over access. 350 houses being accessed on Mount Road, If we don't say it now, then people will say, well, why didn't you raise it when you first saw it? So we know now where the access is, and that's a real concern. And the lack of integration of that scheme with the surrounding houses, you can't get to it other than, and I don't quite know how you could use what I call muddy lane or water lane. Don't know how that could be turned into a meaningful footpath, so you need Wellington boots on in the summer to get up there. So that, and then obviously the topography, which means it will be very overlooking. So I do think we have to make, you know, those comments back to them now that we have serious concerns in those areas. They may be able to allay those when they come forward with an application, but since they've asked our views now, I think we should give them our views now, that there are concerns in those areas, and this is a green, obviously, it's a greenfield site, it's got considerable ecology, and we'd want to know, I can see there's green spaces, but how they're protecting the ecology and the runoff. So I think, you know, given that they've come to us...
For clarification, if I can,
Yep.
what it says in the email, and there's no reason why you can't look at it. Yeah, but they've suggested talking to us directly on the 21st of April, 23rd of April, 24th of April, or the 30th of April. And so any comments we make then with them will still be folded into all of this.
I think it would be useful.
That's the understanding
Yeah,
I've got.
so they have offered to have a meeting, and we can have that. It may not be possible for everybody to attend, and it'd be difficult. So the whole idea of the exercise is to gain some comments, isn't it?
Yeah.
So yes, I think we can make some comments now and add to them at a later date, can't we, if we so wish?
Opportunity to comment in the public domain at a public meeting, isn't it? If we meet them, that won't be in public. Presumably it can't be. And so we might have all sorts of things we say to them, but that won't be in the public. And this is a public meeting. The public will be informed about it. It's a response to them. I mean, it's not us who are putting this forward. They've come with a consultation and being well done. So I just think comments in those areas, that we have concerns in those areas, are entirely appropriate and don't prejudice our position. I think it prejudices our position if we don't say that now. And then when they come forward with an application, we say it. So now we've seen their proposed access and what they're proposing. I think it's reasonable to say we have concerns.
Yeah, well, I don't necessarily disagree with that. But all I'm saying is that is just a consultation exercise. If we could all put in our own comments individually on it, as well as a council, and then obviously if we've had a direct meeting with them, there may be other things that come to light from that, as Aaron said, that we want to give them extra feedback. But I agree with you in terms of connectivity to the adjoining estate. It's poor, and certainly circulation and things could be much better with a better design in some ways. But that's not what you're talking about, because it's an outline application. It's the principle of something going there, not the design. Jonathan?
Yeah, I'd be keen to have a session, because I would be also keen on asking them the question around, even though the environmental impact assessment, if I recall correctly, didn't go any further, but around what they have done to take into consideration the durability of the existing land and the fact that it is practically on a hill to prevent flooding to the houses that would be built there. I think that would be a key critical element to the intrinsic design and infrastructure of the new estate.
Just in terms of that, I mean, it's no different to the houses that are below it in that sense, that those were built on a hill overlooking other people, and so with similar kind of issues. But in terms of the environmental impact assessment, that assessment wasn't needed, but it doesn't mean the impact on the environment isn't considered in the application. That's still all considered, but it's not a formal assessment which has got different threshold and criteria.
Although in the respect of that, yes, by all means, it is no different to an estate that's built below it, but that's an estate that was built, whereas this is one that's to be built. And I just think it needs to be taken into consideration, because someone such as myself could not make a decision in response to the consultation if I was a resident, for example, without taking that into consideration. They couldn't make a comment, so I think it's worth asking them anyway.
Oh yeah, no, those questions that are valid to put in, I'm not dismissing them. It's not an application. We're not deciding an application, so I'm not necessarily suggesting to you we say, oh no, over my dead body or whatever, because that's not what they're after. It's a matter of flushing out how we engage with them to find out the broader things, so that when we actually do come to put comments in, we're putting quality comments in, because we're fully informed about everything they're proposing, rather than a thumbnail view, which is what we've got, Wendy.
Yeah, I'm actually quite pleased to see a developer coming before Outline Planning Commission actually gets sort of applied for. It is giving the residents, in fact they actually delivered leaflets to all the nearby residents to give them an opportunity to individually make all their comments, and hopefully it won't just be a paper exercise, and they will take note of concerns people have. I think the comment about Muddy Lane, I was up there the other day looking at the way the water courses down Luna Road and things, and speaking to Severn Trent, or the gentleman who came to the town council. We had a meeting there with a resident who was concerned about the waterways. Could it be an ideal thing to say to the developers, can we actually make, in order to make these pathways, I do see that the access is, I take your point about the access to the other housing area. Could that be incorporated to improve and to make the sort of waterways a lot not just watery?
In a second, just as a general principle, with my county hat on, it's important that we shift engagement from when a site notice appears for an application to pre-app or even policy setting, because that's where the real graft happens. By the time you get to a site notice, it's generally too late to make big changes, but they should be engaging. It happens in other councils, and Shropshire's not as good as it could be in terms of forcing developers to engage proactively, because what you want to do is find opportunities where planning gain can be made in terms of bus routes and connectivity and all kinds of other things, not necessarily just the fabric of the site. You should be able to do, if they can't do things on this site or on another site, not to dwell on this one, then sometimes they can offset some of the problems by doing something else, and you have to weigh it up with what the gain is you're getting. Is that enough to offset the problems that are inherent in the thing that comes forward? So the more they engage proactively with the public is a good thing in my view. So, Jonathan and then Duncan.
Speaking of Muddy Lane, in addition to any environmental aspects that we need to consider, would we need to seek consultation from any heritage people as well before proceeding with it, or would that be part of the initial process anyway?
When it gets to an application, all the statutory consultees, which be heritage highways, they're automatically asked for their opinion. In terms of pre-app, the actual development managers will be talking about all these kind of things, and they'll be trying to flush out problems and eliminate them, because the planning system is designed to say yes, it's not designed to say no. So they've got a duty to shift unacceptable applications before they even go in, to get them to closer to going straight for yes. So they're poacher and gamekeeper in that sense. So they have to work with the developer and enable consultation and the public to have their say. Duncan.
I do have quite a concern over access to it. If I recall correctly, when Hayes Barn was refused over a few issues, which is right in the middle of this site, one of the major issues was from highways and sight lines coming down the hill. And that was with a relatively lower level of traffic than this, except for the refused peak operations it was going to do. So I think we need to carefully look at, and I'm sure highways will comment on it. I don't know whether they'll be consistent with their views for when they turn down Hayes Barn, but I think that is a major issue with it. And actually, if you go back and look at the Hayes Barn application refusal, there were major issues about drainage of that land on the Hayes Barn application as part of the refusal for letting it proceed.
observations, or does somebody want to, Mark?
Thank you, Chair. I've listened to all the points, very good points, about the traffic connectivity, access to the other parts of the estate. One thing that I was actually at the meeting that Wendy had with the resident and the Severn Trent gentleman, and he made some really good observations, and this will come out as part of this process, about the water runoff and the people's concerns about water runoff because of what this area is like. And what he did say from a Severn Trent standpoint was that very often the mitigation that's put in means that the water runoff after the development is very much less than the greenfield site. And that's why you've got your attenuation ponds at the bottom, so that during kind of heavy rain, the attenuation ponds then soak up and then release it at a slower rate to prevent the muddy lane getting into waterfall lane, as has happened quite a bit in the past, I believe. But I felt it was quite a good observation from somebody who deals, Severn Trent, who deal with it all the time. I thought I'd just share it with you as part of the observations.
Certainly with my county hat on, I'm pushing a lot so they do more sustainable urban drainage, not just with balancing ponds and things and swales and whatever, but so they actually have softer surfaces in and more porous surfaces so that the water goes straight into the ground and doesn't actually go into a pipe and run off. But you have to be careful with runoff, especially on a sloping site like that, because we don't know by looking at it what the strata underneath the ground is, and it could come down, hit a plane, and then just emerge as a natural spring somewhere else. So, yeah, it's a complicated thing, so you do have to think about that very hard. Nobody said what we should actually say to them yet, though, apart from those round robin.
So I could propose that we express concern over access. I mean, somebody mentioned bus, and I thought about this, but the idea of getting a bus to go up there, round there, and back, it's not going to happen,
No.
is it? So the ability to use public transport is severely constrained, and it's a lack of integration of that site with the other site. Frankly, if you're going to do this, you probably have to bite the bullet and buy a bungalow and drive a new road through to it, so you've got better integration. That might cause all sorts of concern to residents, but at least you'd overcome what is building like a, say that ghetto, but a whole other community which doesn't integrate at all with the rest of town, all feeds down onto Mount Road. So I do think we need to raise concerns over access, raise concerns over public transport, raise concerns over open space, and there is concern over drainage, and maybe they can meet all these, and we look forward to them meeting all these, but at the very early stage, these are the things that we're concerned about and that people will be concerned about.
All we're doing is telling them what we think the constraints are on it, and if they can mitigate it, then good for them. But certainly in terms of, because Osprey on that part of town is similar to Bridge North, and there's a lot of cul-de-sacs off cul-de-sacs, so it's just impossible to do anything on active travel really to actually do something proactive. So it's better to design that in at the outset rather than trying to fix it afterwards, because it never happens.
The only additional comments what were made is we welcome the engagement. I think that's important. We want to engage, so there's an offer of a meeting, which I'm assuming you want to take up. You're going to have to attend it, so I'll try and arrange that. Do you want, so it's an offer to us and Oswestry Rural Parish Council. I think it'd be right for it to be a joint meeting, if that's doable. It's short notice, so it might it is going to be tricky to fit it in. But is that okay?
But judging by the window of the dates they've given us and the deadline for consultation, I don't think it'll be that long after that before they put in what they're thinking about.
I was just going to object to specifically calling it a ghetto and objecting to sort of estates being like, given you've got High Bower, which is effectively the same thing right next to it, you've got Bentley Drive on a similar position, like that is actually in keeping with that area, that you have just got odd estates that are sort of feeding in. So it's a matter of they have been accepted previously, and it's not actually out of keeping in the area to have an estate by itself up that hill.
but that's the challenge we have now. You've got legacy estates, which if they were designed from scratch now wouldn't look the same as what they were built 30 years ago.